A recent article in Conservation Biology estimates that 7.5% of humanity depends on coral reefs, yet 58% of the world's remaining reefs are potentially threatened by human activity itself. It is important that we all work together to prevent and reverse these actions so that our coral reefs, along with the many benefits that come along with them and the marine life living within them, may flourish. Through this video, we hope to give you a glimpse into the condition of our world's coral reefs and what can be done to fix this problem. Coral reefs are ancient animals related to jellyfish and anemones. All coral reefs once began as a single polyp, a tiny soft marine animal, which eventually attached to a hard surface. As the polyps grow and eventually die, the coral reefs that we know today are created. There are three main types of coral reefs. Fringing reefs are those that grow in shallow waters close to the coast. Barrier reefs, such as those located near Australia, are separated from land by a lagoon. They grow parallel to the coast and form a large continuous reef. Atolls are ring-shaped reefs that develop near the sea surface on sunken underwater islands. In total, the coral reefs add up to an area about the size of France, less than 1% of the ocean floor. As I said before, a large part of humanity depends directly on coral reefs, and even more are utilizing the benefits gained by the reefs, maybe without even knowing it. According to the Worldwide Fund for Nature, coral reefs provide close to $30 billion each year in goods and services. Some of these benefits are easily measured in monetary terms, such as tourism revenue, but some benefits are what is known as environmental services, which are not immediately recognizable in monetary terms. First of all, coral reefs provide a multitude of benefits to the environment. According to Defenders of Wildlife, about 1/3 of saltwater fish species live at least part of their lives on coral reefs. This equates to about 5,000 different species, making them one of the most biodiverse marine areas on the planet. Along with their roles within the food chain, many of these species perform in other beneficial functions within our oceans. Herbivores living among the reefs, such as surgeonfish, keep algae from taking over the coral reefs. Several species of cleaner wrasses, such as the blue streak cleaner wrasse, keep the larger fish of the reef healthy by removing parasites and dead skin. Coral reefs also provide coastal protection. Their strong skeletal frame can break the force of waves during storms. This leads to prevention of coastal erosion, flooding, and the loss of property on shore. Coral reefs also provide many economic benefits. As stated by the Key West Chamber of Commerce, tourists visiting the Florida Keys generate at least $3 billion in annual income. The reefs are also vital to world's fisheries. As mentioned before, coral reefs serve as homes for 1/3 of ocean fish. There are many people around the world dependent on the reefs for either food or income. We are also very hopeful that these structures will be the source of medical advances. Organisms of the reef are already being used in treatments for diseases such as cancer and HIV. Although there are many benefits provided by the reefs, they are not always managed in a sustainable way. The first step in rejuvenating the coral reefs is to identify the cause of destruction. Climate change is perhaps one of the most serious threats to corals throughout the world. When temperatures are too high, the relationship between the corals and their microalgae, which give the corals their bright colors, breaks down. The coral then appears bleached, which is a stress response. Just 1 degree above the typical summer max within that area is enough to bleach the corals. After long-term high temperatures, the coral and their microalgae may be in a permanent state of damage and unable to recover. Ocean acidification is the occurrence due to the ongoing decrease in the pH of Earth's oceans, caused by saltwater absorbing excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. These conditions destruct the structure of the coral skeleton and makes it highly difficult for more corals to grow. Beyond environmental degradation of these corals, there are several threats posed to the corals by humanity. A high demand in fish for food has led to unsustainable overfishing of many reef species. This can affect the ecological stability and diversity of the reefs. Sometimes the methods used to harvest these fish can also be very destructive. Many fishers turn to the use of dynamite and cyanide to temporarily stun the fish or kill them altogether, making them easier to retrieve. Unfortunately, these practices are not selective in which fish are affected and result in many unwanted and juvenile fish being killed in the process. Although tourism is a major source of income for communities with reefs, oftentimes this tourism can be seen as unsustainable in relation to the condition of the reefs. Contact through careless swimmers, divers, and poorly placed boat anchors can cause physical damage to the reefs. And finally, it is no secret that corals need clean water to thrive. Even pollution from activities inland can cause damage to coral reefs when transferred to rivers and eventually coastal waters. I hope that I have given you a glimpse into some of the problems faced by our reefs and many of the benefits that make it even more critical to prevent such threats. Connor will now present some probable solutions in repairing the conditions of our coral reefs.
All right, let's get the ways that you can help save coral reefs. The first way is to conserve water. If you conserve water at home or at work, this causes less water runoff and less water that has potentially been polluted or able to pollute the oceans. As most freshwater sources used by humans eventually runs off into the oceans, reducing your water usage will affect how much water is polluted. Some other ways to reduce your effect on the coral reefs is to reduce your carbon footprint. There are many ways to reduce your carbon footprint, but some ways are to use the bus or rail system to get to work in your city or town, walk or bike to school, carpool with others that live near you and go to the same location that you are, and to reduce your electricity usage in your home, or try to use renewable electricity programs that your electric provider has. Another way you can help out is to prevent polluted water runoff. Doing so helps prevent ecosystems from falling out of balance with nutrients and oxygen, so try to prevent water runoff on land that you own. Also, don't heavily use fertilizers, and maybe don't use fertilizers in areas susceptible to water runoff. Plant trees on your property to prevent water runoff or other plants that will soak up a lot of water. Grass is usually not a very good absorber of water. Another bonus to planting a tree is cleaner air. It helps reduce your carbon footprint also. Another way to help out is trash disposal. Always be sure that your trash is disposed of properly, and if you see trash around your neighborhood, clean it up as it could pollute water supplies. Also, check and see if your trash provider offers recycling in your area. That's another way to help out saving coral reefs. Another way to help is to volunteer. If you live near coral reefs, you can volunteer for coral reef cleanups that remove trash and other pollutants out of the ecosystem of the reefs. If you don't live near coral reefs, you can volunteer for other groups that help clean up bodies of water, or volunteer in your community. It always helps. Another way to help out is to vote with your money. Be aware where you are spending your money. If you live near coral reefs, ask businesses if they know about the coral reefs damage that's going on, and ask if they are trying to contribute to cleaning it up. If you go on a tour of coral reefs, try to do it with groups that know how to keep the coral reefs safe. Another way to help out the coral reefs is to spread the word. If you're worried about the well-being of the reefs, then tell people. Write your government officials, tell the public of things that you know. Preserving the coral reefs is not only good for the earth, but it also increases the quality of life for us humans too. So it is in our best interest to preserve it. You can do that former list of things that I talked about to help preserve Earth's natural coral reefs. In the next segment of our video, Breanna Black will show us real-life examples of threats and how people are helping out.
The best example of a coral reef in the world is the Great Barrier Reef. Off the coast of Queensland, Australia, it covers 300,000 square kilometers and is the home to over 600 different species of corals and other marine life. It is managed by the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority, long name for a big organization that does a lot for the reef. There are three major threats to the Great Barrier Reef that we'll cover today. The first of which is the crown of thorn starfish. This is a native population, but when its population is unchecked, it can eat the corals whole. And it has a large cycle of population which occurs every 17 years. A threat that covers that affects all reefs around the world is bleaching. Specifically, in the Great Barrier Reef, it affects the northern part. It occurs when the water is simply too warm for the corals to survive, and it can take over a decade to recover. However, the size of the Great Barrier Reef can help it recover. The last threat is the Carmichael mining. Queensland approved leases for the mine on April 3rd of this year, and the mine is predicted to cover 200 square kilometers and produce 60 tons of coal each year. However, the damage to the reef is incalculable, and many groups have already started fighting in the courts and online to preserve the reef. You can contribute by signing the petitions that they have or donating to these organizations. You can also go visit the reef to generate funds for it, or since climate change warms the waters and causes bleaching, you can reduce your carbon footprint to help save the reefs. Thank you.
In conclusion, the Earth's coral reefs are slowly dying because of human-caused disturbances in their ecosystems. So we need people like you to support them and to bring not only the reefs, but the oceans back to health. There are many ways you can personally help it out, be it volunteering, voting for the right people, conserving water, or just spreading the word.